Hi, my name's Hannah and welcome to Relax. And in this class today, you will need a couple of props with you. So I've got a bolster here, but if you don't have a bolster at home, a couple of cushions piled up will do the same sort of job. Some blocks might be useful here as well. So maybe a couple of blocks or maybe some books if you don't have blocks at home too. It's good to have just a couple of props to hand so that you can pick and choose what feels best as we move through the poses. For this class, we are going to be working with kind of almost a yin style class, not completely, but kind of that sort of style, just to help really relax the mind, the body, the nervous system as well, and really get ourselves ready for maybe bedtime if you're doing it at the end of the day, or just relaxing yourself after a stressful day at work, perhaps, whatever you feel like you need this for. Roll out your mat, get your props ready, and then we'll get straight into it. So today we're going to start in Shavasana on our back. If we're using a bolster, then we could pop the bolster just to the top of the mat and allow the legs to rest on top. If you haven't got a bolster with you, you can use some cushions under the legs and that might feel more comfortable. You could use a cushion under the head here as well if you're at home. Might be quite nice to have a blanket maybe, or just something warm to keep yourself cozy throughout the next few minutes. But we're going to find a comfortable place on the mat. I always like to place my hands to the stomach, which isn't the traditional way to do it, but if you prefer to do that, that is an option as well. Otherwise, we'll bring the hands down beside us, palms facing up. And we'll take a moment to, first of all, just arrive into the space and start to really consciously settle into comfort. So as you come into Shavasana, take a moment and just notice how you feel right now. Maybe you need to take out some last little wiggles into the shoulders, let them fall towards the earth. Maybe you want to take the legs a little bit wider. Maybe you feel like rolling the ankles and the wrists before you settle into stillness. But any last little adjustments that you need to before committing to the shape and surrendering your body. Once you've found that place of stillness and calm and comfort, just acknowledge that for a moment. We want to come back to this every time we come into a new pose. As you settle into the shape, we'll work through a quick body scan to help with that feeling of relaxation. And we'll start with the head. So notice as your head sinks heavy into the mat beneath you. That gentle pressure between the head and the earth. Feel the softness in the forehead, in between the brows. Notice the jaw start to soften, then release. And softening in the eyes and the eyelids. Maybe you take a moment just to inhale and breathe into any areas of tension that you notice. And with your exhale, see if you can let go. Moving down to the neck and the shoulders, feel them release towards the earth and the arms resting heavy. Notice your fingers naturally curling in. Feel the abdominals begin to soften as the hips become weighted and heavy, pressing into the mat. Again, maybe you take a moment just to breathe into areas of tension. And try and soften as you breathe out. Try and let go. Moving on down now to the legs. The legs are heavy as all tension starts to melt away. The knees, the ankles are soft. Maybe the feet roll naturally out to the side, or maybe they roll in. Your whole body sinks into the earth beneath you. For one last time, maybe you notice some areas of tension that you'd like to breathe into, letting them go as you breathe out. bringing your awareness back into the room now. We'll start to wiggle our fingers, wiggle our toes. Maybe you roll the ankles and the wrists here if that feels good. You can give the hips a bit of a wiggle from side to side as well. We're just starting to gently wake our physical body back up. Making that movement a little bit more dynamic now, let's bring the knees into the chest. Start to take a rock from side to side. You might squeeze those knees a little closer in towards the body if that feels good. Maybe you don't. When you're ready, we're going to place the soles of the feet on top of the bolster. Let the knees start to fall out either side of your body so the soles of the feet meet together in the center. We're coming into sleeping butterfly, and we're going to spend a little bit of time here. As we come into this pose, you can stay exactly where you are. This is essentially what the pose is. If you wanted a little bit more, then maybe rolling the feet and the bolster closer in towards you will give you that sensation. But if you want less, take the feet further away from you. Another option here is to, rather than have the bolster underneath the feet, is just to roll it a little further up so it's under the legs and the knees instead. That might be a lot more comfortable for you in this shape. Or if you want even more, we can take the feet all the way down onto the mat. But remember, we are going to be here for a little bit longer than we normally would. And the idea is that you want to create comfort within the shape, so that you can start to soften and let go. All of these poses should feel relaxing. Time equals intensity, and we're going to be here for a little bit longer, like I said. So if something feels really intense straight away, you'll find that it becomes quite uncomfortable and maybe even painful as we soften here. Go through a little bit of breath work while we're in this pose. So placing your right hand to your stomach, we'll place our left hand to our heart. I want you to take a nice deep inhale, fill the stomach with the breath. Notice it rise up into the hands. And with your exhale, let that breath go and feel your body soften. So as you inhale and breathe deeply, the body expands and rises, creating space for your breath as you fill the lungs. Then as you exhale, the body just softens back into that space, releasing all the way back down. Let's take 2 more. Taking another deep inhale, fill the stomach with your breath, notice it rise. And then this time, let's fill the chest with our breath as well. As you exhale, let everything go, feel the body soften. So inhale, filling the stomach, and then up into the chest. Exhale, let it go. We'll take 2 more. As you finish that final breath, let it come back into its natural rhythm. And you can keep the hands where they are. Maybe you change them now. Hands could come to hips, either side of you. You could come out and take them nice and wide. Or maybe up and overhead feels quite nice here for a little bit more expansion across the chest. We're going to be here just for a little bit longer. Let's spend 3 more breaths in this shape. Perfect. Start to draw the knees nice and gently back up to center, nice and carefully. We'll just give them a little windscreen wipe from side to side, bringing a bit of movement back into the hips. Slowly and carefully, we're going to make our way up to a seated position on the mat now. We'll start to take the bolster behind us on the mat, just behind us. We want the bolster to be long ways, and we want it to be right up against our sit bones. If you're not using a bolster, then some cushions piled up underneath the spine will work just as well. Or if you've got blocks, you can take one under the lower spine and then one in between the shoulder blades, and that will work for this pose too. We're coming into fish pose. This is one of my favorites, but we're going to take the feet just in front of us, and then we'll start to relax back onto the bolster. And we'll rest the arms either side of us. So the idea here is that there's some expansion across the chest from the bolster being in between the shoulder blades. So you want to create the same sort of thing with the cushions. You might need to pile a couple up and bring them in between the shoulder blades and the lower part of the spine. You could do this with rolled up towels as well, like maybe a few, to create that bolster-like shape. But the arms will come down beside us. If this already feels really uncomfortable, the best thing to do is just slide the sit bones a little further away from you, and that will create a little less stress on the spine. Feet can stay where they are, or if you wanted to lengthen them all the way out, then you could do that too. Just for a little bit more from the pose. Another option is to come back into that sleeping butterfly shape with your legs, letting the knees fall out to the side. You could maybe bring the feet a little bit wider, let the knees knock in together if you'd prefer to. And then again, the hands can kind of do whatever feels best. They don't have to be in a particular place, just resting wherever feels comfortable. But let's start to close down the eyes. So this is a yin style practice. And in yin, we kind of focus on working with an energy called qi. Yin comes from traditional Chinese medicine. And in traditional Chinese medicine, we're working with things called meridians. And meridians are energy channels that are inside our body. They connect to different organs, and this energy, qi, flows through these channels to those different organs. The idea is that stillness is what encourages qi to move around the body. So as we come into each shape, like I said before, it's really important to find comfort. You're less likely to fidget, and you're more likely to soften. The reason we want this energy to flow around our body is just to help support healthy function of all the different organs that each meridian connects to. We have 12 main meridians in total. They actually map out the acupuncture points as well. And although, generally speaking in yoga, we tend to connect to our breath in the present moment, if you find that your mind starts to wander in this practice, that is okay. Yin offers us kind of space to just sit with our thoughts, letting them wander and drift rather than race. You can always come back to the breath at any point if you need it. Let go of expectation, let go of any pressure, or expectation or pressure that you're putting on yourself. And instead, just let this practice be exactly what you need today. We're going to be here just for a little bit longer. As you rest in this pose, you might notice your spine molding and shaping to the prop beneath you, creating that extension in the back of the body, the expansion in the front of the body. You might actually notice the breath feels a little bit different. Generally speaking, we breathe quite shallow into the top of our chest. You might notice that in this pose, we're breathing all the way down into our stomach. Last few breaths in this shape. When you're ready, we'll place the arms and the forearms down beside us, and we're going to start to make our way back up to a seated position on the mat. Let's take the feet a little bit wider, and we're just going to start to relax forward, giving ourselves just some flexion through the spine after being in that pose for such a long time. It might also feel quite nice to take the hands behind you and just screen wipe the knees from side to side. When you're ready, we're going to make our way to a kneeling position on the mat. We're sitting back on the heels of the feet. I'm coming sideways onto the mat here, and then I'm just going to let my right hip come down to the earth. My thighs are parallel to the top of the mat here. We want to create almost a 90-degree-ish angle. It doesn't really matter too much, but the knees are bent. Then from here, we're going to take our bolster, and we're just going to pop it in front of our right hip. Let it extend out to the top of your mat. Taking the hands either side of the bolster, we're going to start to turn the chest to face the bolster, then walk the hands out in front, and we'll let the chest fall down towards the prop. Again, if you don't have a bolster at home, you could use cushions for this. Essentially what this is some rotation through the spine. It's a twist. So having something underneath the body, just a cushion, will feel really nice. It doesn't matter if it's not a bolster. Alternatively, you can take the bolster away, come all the way down onto the mat, and that will deepen the rotation through the spine. So having something flat, like a flat cushion, actually might be quite nice in this pose. The head will relax all the way down. It doesn't really matter what you're doing with the arms here, but the head can go in the same direction as the knees, or if you want a little bit more rotation, we'll take it in the opposite direction. It's whatever feels most comfortable. The knees can stay as they are, or maybe now that you've come into the pose, you feel like bringing the knees a little closer in towards you or sending them further away. But this is where we're going to rest here. So this one is quite a restorative variation of a twist. It's very gentle, but it's a really nice one to relax into. I find that I get a lot of softness and release from this pose, as opposed to some of the more active ones, or the ones that are a little bit harder to prop up. So of course we're using energy in this practice, we're using chi, but there is kind of the physical benefits of this practice too. It's a very passive class, so as we work passively, it means we're kind of stretching and opening the body passively as well. So the muscles are soft, we've completely let go. When the muscles soften, it means that we can work and stretch a little bit deeper, and we're stretching into the connective tissues instead. So all the ligaments, the tendons, the fascia as well, helping to create overall improved flexibility. You want the active stretches that you might do a little bit more in your dynamic classes, as well as these passive ones. Maybe you check in now. Just notice again, are you holding tension in your body? It's very likely that there's some tension in the jaw, in the brows. We tend to hold a lot of tension in our facial muscles. Try and let that go. Spending just a little bit longer left in this one. Perfect. When you're ready, we're going to start to make our way back out of the twist, and we're going to come back up to kneeling, and we'll take that on the opposite side. So I'm going to go to the back of my mat now, just because it makes it easier, but I'll let my left hip come down. Bolster comes to the left hip. We're twisting towards the bolster. Again, it's the same thing. We're going to lower the chest down towards the earth, or to the bolster, whatever you have at home, and the head can go in the same direction or maybe the opposite direction to the knees if you want that extra little bit of rotation in the spine, but just softening. It's exactly the same as the opposite side. We are creeping towards the end of the practice now, so it might just be nice to spend these last few moments on reflecting. Maybe you're reflecting on the time that we've spent on our mat and how it made you feel. Noticing maybe how you feel different now to when you first stepped onto the mat. Physically, hopefully you feel a little bit more open. Maybe mentally you feel a lot calmer, relaxed, soothed, perhaps. Energetically, again, hopefully you feel a little bit calmer, softer. Maybe the breath feels a little bit different now as well. I'm sure the breath has started to relax and calm down. Maybe you're reflecting on the day that you've had. Perhaps we're at the end of the day right now. You're just taking a look back, looking at any noticeable points throughout the day. Maybe some challenges that you overcame. Could even just be reflecting on the recent past. Things that made you happy, smile, laugh. We so often go through life at such a fast pace that we don't get to be in those moments and really live in the here and now. So maybe you just spend a moment to acknowledge the times that make you feel good. Not much longer left here. Let's take 3 more breaths. When you're ready, we'll start to make our way back up to kneeling. We're going to come all the way back down onto our backs now. So meeting back in Shavasana, exactly where we started. Just placing that bolster to the top of the mat if it feels good. Resting the legs on top. Making your way all the way down. This is your final resting pose today. There is nothing left for you to do. I'm going to end the class right here. But feel free to spend a little bit longer in Shavasana if you need it. Thank you for your energy today. Namaste.